Welcome back to the show. It's Monday, and I wanted to try and get going again an old show I did on my podcast, which was Added Time, where I would answer your questions about the previous weekend, maybe some other topics, and it'd be a fun show to do because I get to interact with you guys who listen, of course, and interact with my show, and we maybe cover things that I don't really cover in other shows, and I did enjoy doing it. We're going to do it again. So if you didn't get your question answered this time, please do interact. I'll be posting question requests probably on a Sunday moving forward on my Instagram page at SonOfChelsea, on X at SonOfChelsea, and on the community posts page on my YouTube channel. You can directly ask questions for the Q&A, sonofchelseaofficial@gmail.com. So if you want to interact that way, we'll be interested to hear your thoughts and feelings and the questions you want answered about Chelsea, about football. But let's dive into it. Firstly here with Ollie Taylor, who asks a couple of questions here. What do you think are our team's top three strengths and weaknesses? Who is your favourite all-time Chelsea 11 in a 4-3-3? What would a successful season look like this year for you? The first one, top three strengths. I think we're a really good transition team. I think that we can be really, really devastating when we do have the game state to play in that manner. I think that we have some really intelligent pressers as well. I think when we're able to play in that game state, I do think Cole Palmer, for instance, who of course hasn't played a lot of football recently, but you just look at the intelligent way as a collective we pressed against Barcelona, against Arsenal. This comes into a weakness, obviously, as you probably assume I'm going to get to in terms of this current Chelsea team, but that is absolutely it. And I would say, undeniably, I think Maresca in elite games or top games, big games, I think is a strength for Chelsea. But then you get to the three weaknesses of this Chelsea team, and it's Maresca in kind of the rest of the games. You know, it's the games where it isn't quite obvious the threats, you're facing, or at least you're facing a team that are not going to press you in the way a lot of others do. And I think that's where, as a coach, he has fallen down mostly at Chelsea, especially over the last 6-7 months, where the dynamic has been brilliant in big games, quite underwhelming in average to kind of less interesting games, and that is a real problem. I think another strength we have, weakness we have, is definitely, I think, in terms of recruitment. I think in terms of recruitment of making quite baffling choices and, maybe not setting the team up where from this season we've gone up a level. I feel like I've spoken about this before, we reset. It seems like under this current strategy where we develop some young players from raw to kind of quite consistent or at least promising players, and then we sell them off, and then you replace them not with the players they kind of already are or better quality players. You replace them with players that may turn out in the future to be better than them, but you reset again, and that starts the whole cycle over. So I think there's that defensively too. I think we just haven't invested on quality defenders. I mean, if you look at the Clear Lake centre-back signings so far, and you could make the same argument about the strikers, to be honest, simply not good enough. If you look at Axel Disasi, Benoit Badiashile, Tosin Adarabioyo, there's been a lot of names brought in, but not a lot of quality, and it's why we keep going back to Trev, and why Levi is our best centre-back, and why Josh Achimpong is developing. It should tell you a lot. In terms of the favourite all-time Chelsea 11, to quickly go through it, check. I think Branner would be my right back. JT and Carvalho still for me is the centre back duo. I know Thiago, honourable mention there. Ashley Cole, Frank, Fabregas, Kante and Makelele, that's a hard one, but I think I'll go with Kante. And then Diego, Didier and Hazard. I think I did a sort of video about this. I'll maybe pick it up in the cards, right? And a 4-3-3 is difficult, but I would cheat a little bit to have both Didier and Diego both in the same team. And what would a successful season look like? I think it would be progressing on last year in the Premier League, so being 10 points below the eventual champions, a quarter-final in the Champions League, and a domestic cup win. So I think I said all that in the summer, and I think I'm sticking with that for now in terms of how the season's gone so far. Kylish, really, really great guy, involved in the Paul Cannavale Foundation, who I obviously have been connected with as a media partner for them this year. Please go and check out all the brilliant work of the Paul Cannavale Foundation, the fantasy leagues, the events they're doing, the pieces they put up on social media that I share regularly on my pages. Go and support the Paul Cannavale Foundation with all the great work they do. But this is what Kylish had to ask. Do we still need Mike Maignan? Would you extend Pender's loan if we do bring him in? The Maignan one could be re-energized over January because, of course, he hasn't signed that new contract with Milan, and maybe Chelsea look to get a deal done for the summer. I feel like the the difficulty at the moment is because Rob Sanchez is, I think, undeniably having a good season. I think he's much better than he was a year ago. There are still some frailties about him, but nowhere close to where he was 12 months ago. And I mean, he's saving us points undeniably. I think he has become a much better goalkeeper. I still would like a goalkeeper investment in the long term because I still do have fears about how good Rob Sanchez actually could become. I think there is a concern that Pender's form at Strasbourg, there are some weaknesses within his game that still need to be ironed out a little bit. But I kind of do think that if you're not bringing back Penders, then what was the point of not signing Magnon? And I do wonder, if you would sign Magnon, I think you would probably have to extend Pender's loan. I'm a big believer that with young goalkeepers, there's no point. It's not like other areas of the pitch. You can't ease them in. You can't rotate them around. With goalkeepers, pretty much, you have to commit to them, no matter what age they are. If you see them as your first choice, you know, Penders can't come in and play the odd cup game. It would be a complete pause on his development. So I think it's an interesting one. If Chelsea do commit to Mike Magnon, then maybe, I'd be considering what's going on with Penders in terms of his development, because that is a big issue. Andy Wace here asks, bring Omega in January. I saw a report from Kieran Gill in the Daily Mail today that basically suggests that isn't going to be happening. Chelsea are not planning on bringing him in earlier than expected, which is of course next summer. It is quite funny though, because Chelsea could just basically talk to themselves and convince themselves that he needs to arrive earlier, and I think that would be a smarter move because the striking situation is becoming a concern. It absolutely is. I wrote for Pride of London today about the Nicholas Jackson situation, or at least the regret, from my opinion, of letting Jackson go out on loan and letting him walk out the door effectively, at least for a season, and not replacing the goals he provided. Whatever you think of Jackson, how critical you can be of Jackson, you just cannot deny the numbers he provided. He provided at least 10 goals for us over the course of 2 seasons, and not collectively altogether. I think it was about 30 goals in total, at least in the Premier League. And that is something that Chelsea have to rectify, and it is of great frustration. It was something I spoke about in my first answer in today's show about, when you're replacing players, it has to be of better quality. It can't be a regression. It can't be a complete reset. And when you look at Liam Delap, who's obviously had his own injury problems, Mark Guiu, who is incredibly raw, even though I think he has some good instincts and abilities that could be, very much developed and improved over time. Joao Pedro, who plays there a lot but isn't taking enough shots, and some of his numbers are quite concerning just as an attacking player, not even playing as a centre forward. It's simply unacceptable, I think, at this point where Chelsea are still left without a centre forward, still left without a commanding presence in that position. It's taken us so long to find anyone who can consistently provide elite results and output in that position. And when you consider what we've spent, it's unacceptable. So I'd bring Omega in January, because the Jackson thing, he's there on loan for the season. Doesn't look like he's going to be extended, but is he actually going to return to Chelsea? That whole situation and marriage seemed to end not amicably at all. But I don't think it's a great situation for the player or for Chelsea now, who are left with not the best looking attacking or striker situation, because the goals aren't really there. They're having to be provided from elsewhere, which puts pressure on players who shouldn't usually be expected to take up the weight of those goals. So I think that's what makes it a concern, and absolutely why I think many people going into January will be looking at that in particular and going, why can't he arrive a bit earlier? So that is it for today's edition of Added Time. Once again, if you want to interact, get involved in next week's show, please do contact the show, whether that be via @SonOfChelsea on Instagram, X @SonOfChelsea, at gmail.com, SonOfChelsea official, that is at gmail.com. That's the official Gmail for the show, and I will be requesting questions next Sunday, so look out for that if you do follow across the socials and on my YouTube community post page. But hope you enjoyed. Like, share, get involved, and I will see you again very soon. All the best.